You're done here, Jasmine. Pack your things. The words hit harder than the slam of the kitchen door. Inside a small-town diner in Georgia, the smell of fresh coffee couldn't mask the stench of racism. Jasmine Carter, a young black waitress, stood frozen, holding an empty tray as her boss glared at her with open disgust. Her crime? She'd smiled at the wrong customers, a group of bikers who had stopped for lunch. The room went silent. The other waitresses looked away. The cook muttered under his breath. The owner, Mr. Collins, sneered. "We don't serve their kind here, or yours." Her throat burned. Her hands trembled, but she didn't cry. Jasmine had faced worse. Whispers, side glances, unfair tips. But this humiliation, in front of everyone, cut deeper than ever. Those bikers had been the only ones to treat her with respect. And now, they were the reason she was walking out of the only job keeping her and her daughter fed. What Mr. Collins didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the people he just insulted weren't just any bikers, and they weren't about to let this slide. Before we dive in, like, subscribe, and share this story, because silence protects the hateful, but truth exposes them. Now, let's begin. The lunch rush at Collins Country Diner was always loud. Sizzling bacon, clinking plates, the low hum of country radio. But that afternoon, the air was different. The second the group of bikers walked in, everything went quiet. Conversations stopped. Forks paused mid-air. They were big men in leather vests, sunburnt faces, tattoos that told stories. To most people in that small Georgia town, they were trouble. But to Jasmine Carter, they were just customers, tired, hungry, and human. She smiled warmly, balancing her tray like a pro. "Afternoon, fellas. What can I get started for y'all?" The men exchanged surprised looks, then smiled back. "Just some burgers and coffee, ma'am." "Appreciate the welcome." But from behind the counter, Mr. Collins glared. A red-faced man with a gold watch and too much pride, he slammed his ledger shut and stormed toward her. "Jasmine!" he barked, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. "Did you not see who you're serving?" She blinked, confused. "They're customers, sir," he scoffed. "Not our customers. We don't need their kind or yours running off the regulars." The entire diner froze. One of the older waitresses looked down, pretending to wipe the same spot on the counter for the 10th time. A couple at table 6 quietly got up and left. Jasmine's face flushed hot. "Sir, I'm just doing my job." "You're done doing anything here," Collins snapped. "You're fired. Now get out before I have you escorted." The bikers rose from their seats, watching silently. One of them clenched his fists, his jaw tight. But Jasmine lifted her chin, refusing to let tears fall. She untied her apron slowly, placed it on the counter, and met Collins's cold eyes. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. Collins chuckled, waving her off. "Doubt it." But as Jasmine walked out into the blinding sun, the sound of motorcycle engines rumbling behind her made him glance out the window uneasily. Those same bikers weren't leaving quietly, and tomorrow, they'd be back. The sun was setting when Jasmine Carter finally made it home. Her small, worn-down apartment sat at the edge of town, its cracked steps creaking beneath her feet. She unlocked the door with shaking hands, her apron still crumpled under her arm, though she no longer had a job to wear it for. Inside, the faint smell of macaroni and crayons filled the air. Her 8-year-old daughter, Lena, sat on the floor, drawing stick figures at the coffee table. She looked up with a grin that could light up the whole room. "Mommy! You're home early." Jasmine froze for a second, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, baby. Just slow day at work. Lena hopped up, showing her a drawing. I made this for you. It's us. You're serving pancakes to nice people. The words cut deep. Jasmine crouched, pulling her daughter into a hug, her throat tightening as she buried her face in Lena's curls. That's beautiful, baby, she whispered. But behind that soft smile was a storm. Rent was due in 5 days. Groceries were low. Her boss's words replayed in her mind like poison. We don't serve their kind here, or yours. She stood and stared out the window, watching the last bit of daylight fade. Her reflection stared back. Tired eyes, proud posture, and a woman who refused to break even when the world wanted her to. Her phone buzzed. A text from her friend Tasha, another waitress at the diner. Girl, those bikers came back after you left. Collins told them what he did. They didn't take it well. Jasmine's brow furrowed. She typed back quickly. What do you mean? Tasha's reply came fast. They said they're coming back tomorrow. And not just for food, Jasmine's heart skipped. For a moment she imagined them. Those same men, their heavy boots, their roaring engines, their quiet kindness. She didn't know if they were coming to cause trouble or to make things right. But deep down, something told her this wasn't over. She looked at Lena, sleeping peacefully now, and whispered to herself, tomorrow's gonna be different. And she was right. Because tomorrow, the entire town would be watching. By morning, the story had spread faster than wildfire. In a small town like Brookfield, gossip traveled quicker than news. Everyone knew that Mr. Collins had fired the black waitress for serving bikers, and everyone had an opinion. At the diner, the regulars whispered in booths over their biscuits and coffee. Some shook their heads. Others muttered things they wouldn't dare say out loud. But Mr. Collins, puffed up with self-righteousness, acted like nothing had happened. She was trouble, he told a customer with a smirk. Didn't know her place. I run a respectable business. Just before noon, the sound hit first, low, rumbling, powerful. The windows shook, heads turned, and then they appeared. 10 motorcycles rolled into the parking lot, chrome shining under the sun. Boots hit gravel as the bikers dismounted in unison. Every conversation in the diner stopped cold. Mr. Collins's smirk faltered. At the front of the group was Duke, the same man Jasmine had served the day before. Broad shoulders, leather vest, calm but dangerous eyes. He walked to the door, pushed it open, and stepped inside like he owned the place. The bell above the door jingled weakly in the thick silence. Mr. Collins swallowed, forcing a smile. We're closed for a private event. Duke ignored him completely. He glanced around, then said in a voice that carried through every corner, Where's the young lady who served us yesterday? A waitress behind the counter whispered, She's gone. Collins fired her. Duke's jaw tightened. He turned his glare on the trembling owner. You fired her for doing her job? Collins straightened his vest, trying to sound brave. This is my diner, and I decide who eats here. She brought trouble. Duke leaned closer, his voice calm but lethal. The only trouble I see is you. The other bikers spread across the diner, their heavy boots echoing against the tile. Customers started filming. The tension was electric, dangerous, unstoppable. Outside, a car slowed, someone live-streaming the scene. Within minutes, the town's phones buzzed with one message. Bikers back at Collins's diner, and it's about to go down. And Jasmine? she was already on her way. By the time Jasmine Carter reached Main Street, half the town was already there. A crowd had gathered in front of Colin's Country Diner, spilling onto the sidewalk. Phones were up, engines idled nearby, and through the glass windows, the sight was unreal. 10 bikers, standing shoulder to shoulder, facing off against Mr. Collins. Jasmine's stomach twisted. She never wanted violence. She just wanted her dignity back. But the look on those men's faces told her one thing. This was about to go far beyond her. She pushed through the murmuring crowd. Whispers followed her like a shadow. That's her. Poor girl. She's the one he fired. Her hands trembled as she reached the front steps. The door opened before she could knock. Duke stood there, tall and unflinching. His leather vest bore his club's name, Iron Sons. But behind that hardened look was respect. "Ma'am," he said simply, "you shouldn't have had to face that alone." Jasmine's voice wavered. "Please, don't make this worse. I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me." Duke nodded slowly. "We're not here for trouble. We're here for truth." "Inside," Mr. Collins barked. "You got no business in my diner. You people bring nothing but chaos." The words hit the air like poison. The crowd outside gasped. Even the bikers stiffened. Jasmine stepped inside then, her heart racing but her voice steady. "Enough, Mr. Collins." The diner went silent. The same woman who had walked out humiliated the day before now stood taller, prouder. The sunlight framed her face through the window. "You fired me because I treated customers like human beings," she said. "Because you can't stand to see a black woman doing her job with pride." Mr. Collins sneered, his face red. "Watch your tone, girl." But before he could finish, Duke slammed his palm on the counter, rattling the plates. "She's not a girl. You're gonna show her the respect she earned." Cameras flashed. Livestream comments exploded. And right there, in front of everyone, Mr. Collins realized the whole world was watching. The air inside Colin's Country Diner was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every seat was filled with gawking customers, every phone raised high, recording. The clatter of the kitchen had gone silent. Even the coffee pot hissed quietly in the background. Mr. Collins stood behind the counter, red-faced and furious, gripping a towel like he might wring it around someone's neck. "You people think you can walk in here and start trouble?" he spat at the bikers. Duke leaned forward, his voice low but deadly calm. "Trouble started when you fired a woman for doing her job. Trouble's what happens when hate gets a uniform." The crowd murmured. Some nodded. Others whispered nervously. Jasmine stood beside Duke, heart pounding, hands trembling slightly, but her chin high. "You humiliated me, Mr. Collins. You made me feel small because of my skin, because I showed kindness to people you judged." Collins snorted. "Don't play the victim. This is my diner. My rules." Duke took a step closer, his heavy boots echoing on the tile. "Yeah? Well, your rules are rotten." Suddenly, a woman in the back spoke up. Tasha, Jasmine's co-worker, clutching her apron. "He's lying. He told us all not to serve black customers late at night. Said it scared away the locals." The crowd gasped. Cameras swung toward Collins. "That's not true," he shouted, his voice cracking. "She's just trying to save her friend." But the truth was out now, and there was no shoving it back. Another customer stood. "He told me the same thing last year," the man said. "Told me to take my business somewhere more fitting when I came in with my black coworker." Whispers turned into outrage. The crowd began booing. "Racist!" someone yelled. "Shame on you!" Jasmine took a slow breath and stepped forward, her voice steady and powerful. "You tried to break me, but all you did was show everyone who you really are." Mr. Collins slammed his palm on the counter, shaking. "Get out of my diner before I—" He froze mid-sentence as the glass door swung open. The town's local news crew walked in, cameras rolling live. The glass door swung open with a chime, and the sound of heavy camera equipment filled the diner. 2 reporters and a cameraman from Channel 7 News stepped inside, lights flashing to life. "Brookfield News," one of them said quickly. "We're here about a possible workplace discrimination incident." Mr. Collins's face drained of color. "Now hold on, this is private property." But it was too late. The crowd parted, creating a clear line of sight to the counter where Jasmine Carter stood, shoulders back, eyes steady. The camera focused on her, and the reporter's microphone extended forward. "Miss, are you the employee who was fired yesterday?" Jasmine's voice trembled for a moment, then steadied. "Yes. My name is Jasmine Carter. I worked here for 2 years. Yesterday, I was fired for serving a table of bikers because my boss didn't like the color of their skin." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. The camera light glared off Collins's sweat-slicked forehead. "That's a lie," he barked. "She was fired for disobeying company policy." Duke stepped into the frame, his voice booming. "Your policy was racism, old man." The reporter turned back to Jasmine. "Did anyone else witness this?" Tasha raised a trembling hand. "All of us did." He said, and I quote, "We don't serve their kind here. Or yours." The crowd gasped again, louder this time. The cameraman zoomed in on Collins, whose hands shook as he wiped his face with a napkin. Outside, a new sound began. Engines. More motorcycles. More people. The entire parking lot filled with bikers, all rolling in together, their jackets flashing logos from different towns. The reporter whispered, "Looks like word's spreading." Jasmine turned toward the window. Dozens of men and women on bikes stood there now, silent, watching through the glass. Not angry, not violent, just there. Standing up for her. Mr. Collins looked around wildly, trapped by his own arrogance. "You're ruining me!" he shouted. Jasmine met his eyes. "No, Mr. Collins. You did that yourself." The reporter glanced toward her producer. "Go live," she said. And seconds later, the broadcast banner appeared across screens across the state. "Local diner accused of racism. Owner confronted on camera." And somewhere across town, a black SUV pulled into Brookfield, carrying someone Collins never expected to see again. The roar of the black SUV silenced even the motorcycles outside. The crowd turned as its door opened slowly. Out stepped a tall black man in a sharp gray suit, his polished shoes crunching on gravel. The gold emblem on his jacket read, "State Department of Labor, Civil Rights Division." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. He walked with calm authority toward the diner door. The news camera turned instantly, following his every step. He entered the diner like he'd been expected all along. "Good afternoon," he said firmly. "My name is Michael Tate, senior investigator with the Georgia Civil Rights Office. I received several complaints about this establishment last night." Mr. Collins froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Wait, this isn't official." Michael held up a hand, cutting him off. "Sir, I have video evidence, multiple witness statements, and your own staff's testimony, all confirming workplace discrimination and racial harassment. Would you like to comment on that? On live television?" The room went dead quiet. Even the sizzling of the grill stopped. Collins stammered, sweat dripping from his temples. "This is ridiculous! They're all lying. She's trying to ruin me because I fired her." Jasmine stood tall beside the counter, her voice calm but steady. "No, Mr. Collins. You ruined yourself the moment you decided my worth was less than someone else's. All I ever wanted was to do my job and be treated like a person." The crowd erupted into quiet applause. Even the reporter lowered her microphone slightly, nodding in respect. Michael looked around the diner, then back at Collins. "You'll be hearing from our office, sir. Effective immediately, your business license is under review for suspension pending investigation." A collective gasp filled the air. Phones were recording, live streams exploding with comments. "Justice. She did it. That man's finished." Collins looked as if the floor had been pulled out from under him. "You can't do this. This is my life." Michael's tone was steady. "Then you should have treated other people's lives with the same respect." The door opened again, and this time it was Jasmine's landlord, the mayor, and the local church pastor, all standing in the doorway. The whole town had come to watch him fall, and Jasmine Carter was about to deliver the final blow. The diner was packed wall to wall now. Locals, reporters, bikers, police officers, all gathered under the flickering neon sign of Collins Country Diner. What had started as a moment of hate had turned into something much bigger. Jasmine Carter stood in the center, framed by the golden afternoon light spilling through the blinds. The cameras pointed at her, the world watching. And for the first time, Mr. Collins had nothing left to say. He slumped behind the counter, his face pale, his hands shaking. Around him, the sound of typing and murmuring from reporters filled the silence he'd once ruled with arrogance. Jasmine took a deep breath, her voice calm but heavy with truth. "Yesterday, I was fired for being kind, for serving people who didn't look like everyone else in this town. But kindness shouldn't cost you your job, and the color of your skin shouldn't decide your worth." The crowd grew still, even the bikers bowing their heads in quiet respect. She looked directly into the nearest camera. "I didn't fight back yesterday because I was afraid. But I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not just speaking for me. I'm speaking for every worker who's been humiliated, every person who's been treated like less. Because racism doesn't need a sign on the door. Sometimes it hides behind a smile and an apron." Applause broke out. Soft at first, then stronger, echoing off the walls. Even the bikers clapped, nodding toward her with pride. Mr. Collins tried to stand, but the police officer beside him gently guided him back down. His reign was over. His diner, the place he once used to spread hate, had just become a stage for justice. Jasmine smiled faintly, a tear slipping down her cheek. She turned to Duke and the bikers. "Thank you for standing up when no one else did." Duke tipped his head respectfully. "No, ma'am. You stood up first." Outside, the crowd cheered as the cameras panned wide, capturing the once-hated diner turned into a symbol of unity and strength. Jasmine stepped out into the sunlight, her daughter Lena waiting on the sidewalk with open arms. As they hugged, the crowd roared, not just for her, but for what she represented. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and share. Because stories like Jasmine's are real, and every share helps silence another voice of hate. Racism only wins when we stop speaking. Let's make sure we never do. The fight for respect doesn't end here. It starts every time we choose to stand up.